They were forsaken by the galaxy, until humanity declared, "We stand with you." Its blue-green oceans and glowing cities had once been alive with trade and laughter, but now, silence spread over the planet like a shadow. The Galactic Council had decided the Velari were a problem. They were small, their fleets weak, and their planet had resources others wanted. Slowly, carefully, the galaxy had turned its back. No fleet would defend them, no ambassador would answer their calls. They were abandoned. In the capital city of Leora, a young Velari diplomat named Kellen stared out over the glowing spires. Smoke rose from a nearby industrial district that had been raided by space pirates. The Council's decision had emboldened criminals who saw the Velari's helplessness as an opportunity. Kellen's heart ached as he watched families fleeing in shuttles, carrying what little they could save. "How can they leave us like this?" he whispered to himself. "Have we ever meant so little to anyone?" Far away, in a human listening post on the edge of human space, Commander John Harris monitored signals from deep space. Harris was not a large man, nor was he famous, but he had a sharp mind and a strong sense of fairness. When the Velari's distress signals crossed into human sensors, he saw the desperation in their messages immediately. Ships that were once the pride of the Velari fleet were drifting, abandoned, stripped of supplies, and drifting helplessly in orbit. He frowned. Humanity had often been careful about involving itself in galactic politics, but this was different. "They don't deserve this," he muttered, tapping on his console to replay the latest distress signal. The image of a small Velari mother clutching her child on a crumbling dock haunted him. Back on Arvona, Kellen rushed through the streets toward the central communication tower. Every step felt heavier than the last. He passed groups of Velari workers, carrying whatever they could save. Some dragged broken machines, while others carried children and elders trying to find shelter. The sky was lit by the glowing trails of departing council ships, which left the system without a word. The Velari had been part of the galactic network for generations, and now, in moments, they were erased from consideration. Kellen reached the tower, his tentacles trembling as he accessed the main communication panel. He tried every channel, every frequency, hoping anyone would hear. "This is Kellen of Arvona," he said into the speaker, his voice shaking. "We are under attack, our fleets are destroyed, our cities are falling, we are asking for help." The tower crackled and hissed. For hours, Kellen waited, watching the signal travel into deep space. Every minute more ships vanished, more cities burned, and the people of Arvona began to lose hope. Kellen sank to the floor, the weight of helplessness pressing down on him. Meanwhile, in human space, the signal finally reached Earth's outermost listening station. Lieutenant Amy Ford was the first to notice it. Amy had joined the station for the quiet work of monitoring signals, expecting nothing more exciting than background chatter and distant star activity. But this was different. The tone of the Velari transmission was urgent, desperate, and almost pleading. Amy played the clip for Commander Harris. Harris leaned back in his chair, studying the screen. The faces of the Velari were projected in grainy detail, pale, luminous skin, eyes large and round, expressions that humans could recognize as fear and sorrow. He could feel it even from the screen. "They're being abandoned," Harris said. "The Council is leaving them to die," Amy nodded. "It's worse than we thought. Their fleets are gone, or at least neutralized. The cities are unprotected. The pirates they're already attacking. If we don't act, the Velari could be gone in days." Harris rubbed his eyes. He knew that getting involved could anger powerful members of the Council. Humans were not supposed to interfere in other civilizations, conflicts, especially ones as politically sensitive as this. But he couldn't just sit and watch. "Prepare a detailed report," he said. "I'm sending a request directly to Earth Command. They need to know exactly what's happening. If this doesn't move them, then nothing will." Hours passed as Amy compiled data, satellites relayed images, and Harris watched the slow decay of a civilization that had once thrived. On Arvona, Kellen had not stopped. He moved from tower to tower, sending signals, updating messages, even trying to communicate with pirate ships in the hope of negotiation. None responded except with violence. Night came over Arvona, though the glow from the cities still lit the sky like faint neon. The temperature dropped, and survivors huddled in shelters or in abandoned buildings. Children cried, elders murmured prayers, and the once proud Velari Navy ships floated like broken toys in orbit. Kellen sat with a group of young Velari, sharing whatever rations remained. His mind refused to give in to despair, but his heart ached for the helplessness he could not fix alone. Back on the human listening post, Harris made a decision that would change everything. He reached for the communication console and activated the universal transmission signal, a risky move that bypassed usual protocols. His voice carried over light years of space. "This is Commander John Harris of the United Earth Fleet. We have received your distress signals. Humanity is watching. We are considering action." The Velari signal consoles picked up the transmission. Kellen heard a human voice for the first time, one that was not filled with greed, judgment, or indifference. It was calm, measured, and filled with a promise that someone was listening. Tears filled his eyes. Could it be real? Could someone actually care enough to step in? Meanwhile, in the halls of the Galactic Council, whispers began to spread. Some members noticed the human transmission. Some laughed at the idea that humans, so young and so untested in galactic affairs, would intervene. Others frowned. Humanity had often been underestimated, and now they were about to step into a situation that could upset the balance of power. On Arvona, Kellen could feel the hope slowly returning to his people. It was fragile, almost fragile enough to break, but it was there. He moved through the streets, telling families and survivors what he had heard. "There is someone out there," he said, "someone willing to see us as more than a problem. Someone willing to help." The children looked up at him with wide eyes, the elders gave faint smiles, and for the first time in days, the Velari could imagine a future that was not filled with fire and loss. Harris continued to watch the signals, coordinating with human analysts on Earth. He knew that acting too quickly could draw criticism or provoke conflict, but he also knew that the Velari had no time left. Every hour mattered, every minute could mean more lives lost. He drafted plans for a relief mission, carefully balancing speed with preparation. Engineers, medical teams, and defensive ships would be sent. It would not be a show of force. It would be a mission of rescue. As night turned to day on Arvona, Kellen and his team worked tirelessly to guide survivors to safety. They moved families from damaged districts to underground shelters, distributed rations, and helped repair small ships capable of evacuation. Each small act was a victory against despair, a spark of hope in a universe that had abandoned them. High above, human satellites began to arrive in Velari space, small at first, but enough to be noticed. Kellen saw them as tiny points of light, almost insignificant against the vast backdrop of space, but they represented something powerful. Humanity was watching, and they were coming. Harris monitored the progress with a mix of anxiety and determination. He knew the journey ahead would not be easy. The Velari were on the brink of extinction, and any delay could cost lives. But he also knew that this was the moment humanity had long waited for, a chance to stand for what was right, to step into the galaxy not as conquerors, but as protectors. On Arvona, survivors whispered about the humans. They had never met them, yet they felt a connection stronger than words. "They are coming for us," Kellen said, looking up at the dark sky. "And maybe we are not alone after all." In that quiet moment, with smoke rising from the cities and stars shining above, the Velari dared to hope. Humanity had seen them. Humanity had heard their plea. And for the first time in generations, the Velari felt that they might survive. On Earth, the news of the Velari distress signal spread quickly among military and civilian leaders. The Council of Earth Space Command gathered in the high tower of the capital city, the windows offering a view of orbiting satellites that had become humanity's eyes and ears in the galaxy. Commander John Harris stood at the front, his face serious. Around him, officials whispered quietly, weighing the risks of involvement. Admiral Susan Blake, a woman known for her careful strategy, broke the silence. "We have no obligation to intervene in another civilization's affairs. The Velari are far away, weak, and politically isolated. If we get involved, we risk angering other powers in the galaxy. They could retaliate against us economically or militarily." Her voice was firm, but behind it, Harris could sense a tension. She cared deeply about humanity, but she feared reckless action. A young civilian envoy, Laura Bennett, shifted in her seat. "Admiral, with all due respect, that is exactly why we must act. The Velari are being abandoned. Their people are dying. If humanity does nothing, we will be standing by as a species faces destruction. We cannot let fear of political consequences stop us from doing what is right. Harris nodded slowly. He had watched both arguments unfold in his mind for days, weighing every possible outcome. He understood the fear of provoking other galactic powers, but he also understood the cost of inaction. He turned to the group. We are humans. We have been underestimated, overlooked, and sometimes treated unfairly. If we choose to act, it is not for recognition or approval. It is because it is right. The room fell silent. Some officials shifted uncomfortably, while others looked thoughtful. Outside the window, the Earth slowly rotated, a silent reminder that their choices could affect billions of lives, both human and alien. Meanwhile, Harris worked with analysts to map the situation around Arvona. The Velari cities were in disrepair, their fleets crippled, and pirates had taken advantage of the chaos. Satellite images showed entire districts abandoned, fires burning unchecked, and small groups of Velari struggling to survive. Each image weighed heavily on Harris. He could not ignore it. "Commander," said analyst Peter Grant, a quiet man with keen eyes, "if we send help, it must be calculated. We cannot rush in unprepared. We need medical teams, engineers, and defense units. If we fail, we will make the situation worse." Harris considered this carefully. "I agree. Prepare a preliminary plan for a relief fleet. It will be small enough to maneuver quickly, but strong enough to protect the Velari and our teams. We move quietly but decisively." Over the next hours, the Council debated further. Some members warned that other galactic powers might see intervention as interference, possibly even an act of war. Others argued that failing to act would damage humanity's reputation and moral standing. Harris listened, weighing every word, knowing that the decision could not wait too long. Back on Arvona, Kellen continued to organize the Velari's scattered survivors. He moved from shelter to shelter, checking on families, guiding small groups to safer areas, and trying to keep the morale of the population intact. Each day brought new challenges: food shortages, pirate attacks, and the ever-present fear of being abandoned completely. Kellen visited a makeshift hospital where Velari doctors struggled to care for the injured. The hospital was crowded and supplies were scarce. He helped distribute rations, cleaned medical equipment, and comforted children. The cries of the injured and sick were constant, a reminder of how fragile life had become for the Velari. "We cannot survive like this," Kellen said softly to one of the elder Velari doctors. "We need help. Someone must see us. Someone must care." The doctor shook his head, tired and worn, but his eyes held a spark of hope. At the same time, John Harris received new transmissions from the Velari. The images showed the destruction in more detail. A fleet of Velari ships drifting in orbit, some damaged beyond repair, cities partially collapsed, and countless families struggling to survive. Each signal made Harris's resolve stronger. Humanity could not watch and do nothing. Harris called a special session with key members of the Council. "We cannot wait for permission or approval from distant powers," he said. "The Velari are being left to die. Humanity must act. We have the ability to make a difference, and we must use it. The relief fleet will be deployed. Prepare ships, teams, and supplies immediately." Admiral Blake frowned. "Commander, this is unprecedented. Are you sure we are ready?" Harris met her gaze. "We are ready, not because we are perfect, but because we cannot ignore those in need. We stand for what is right." The preparations began immediately. Engineers worked on supply ships, loading food, medical supplies, and repair equipment. Pilots trained for long-distance travel to reach Arvona. Medical teams prepared to treat injuries on a scale they had never faced. Harris coordinated every step, ensuring that the relief fleet would be fast, efficient, and capable of defending itself and the Velari population. As Earth worked to prepare, news of the Velari plight spread among the public. Citizens watched the images on screens and holographic projections, seeing the fires, the abandoned cities, and the desperate faces of the Velari. Public opinion overwhelmingly favored action. Humans remembered what it felt like to be overlooked, underestimated, or abandoned. A sense of empathy and moral duty grew across the planet. Meanwhile, Kellen and the Velari did what they could to survive. He organized small defense teams to protect the remaining cities from pirate raids. He coordinated evacuation plans, guiding families to safer locations or damaged ships that could still fly. Every day was a struggle, but the small spark of hope from the human message kept him moving forward. One evening, as Kellen looked out over the ruins of a city, he saw the faint glow of distant ships approaching. He could not be sure, but something about them seemed different. They did not fire upon the Velari or the pirates. Instead, they moved with purpose, a silent promise of help. Kellen's heart raced. Could this be the humans they had heard from? Could someone really be coming to stand with them? Back on Earth, Harris monitored the fleet's departure. Ships left the docks with precision and care, carrying engineers, medical staff, and security personnel. Communication channels were open, allowing Harris to guide the fleet and stay updated on conditions at Arvona. Every detail mattered, every decision could affect thousands of lives. The fleet moved swiftly through the vast emptiness of space. Harris watched the stars pass by, thinking about the Velari who waited on a distant planet. He thought about the families, the children, and the elders who had been abandoned by the galaxy. Humanity had the chance to do something no one else would do, to stand for what was right, to protect those who had been forsaken. As the fleet neared Velari space, new signals arrived from the planet. Kellen and his team had organized small defense units, trying to hold off pirate attacks until help arrived. They sent messages to the approaching ships, hoping they would be heard. "We need help," Kellen said into the comm panel. "Our people are dying, please do not leave us." The response from the human fleet came almost immediately, calm and reassuring. "We are here, help is on the way, stand strong." Kellen could not believe his ears. For the first time in weeks, he felt a sense of relief. Perhaps survival was possible. Perhaps they were not alone. Even as the humans approached, challenges remained. Pirate groups had gathered, sensing the vulnerability of the Velari. They attacked with small but fast ships, trying to disrupt the relief mission. The Velari tried to fight back, but their weapons were outdated, their crews inexperienced. Each skirmish threatened to undo the fragile hope that had been growing. John Harris, monitoring the situation from Earth, made decisions quickly. The human fleet deployed defensive measures, intercepting pirate attacks without harming civilians. Engineers aboard human ships prepared to repair Velari ships in orbit. Medical teams readied supplies for the injured. Harris coordinated every move, ensuring that the Velari could survive until full help arrived. Kellen watched the unfolding events in awe. Humans, distant and unknown, were acting with precision, courage, and care. They did not seek tribute, they did not demand obedience, they simply helped. For the Velari, this was more than assistance, it was a statement. Someone, somewhere in the galaxy, had decided that they mattered. By the time night fell on Arvona again, the first human ships had reached the outer edges of the Velari system. Survivors looked up, their eyes reflecting the lights of approaching ships. Children pointed with excitement, elders nodded with disbelief, and Kellen could barely speak, his heart pounding with relief. Humanity had come. They had heard the plea, and for the first time the Velari believed that they might survive. The situation was far from over. Pirates still lurked, cities were damaged, and the Velari population had suffered greatly. But the arrival of the humans changed everything. It was a turning point, a moment when one species decided to stand with another against neglect, against abandonment, against despair. John Harris watched the approaching fleet from his console. He knew that the real work was about to begin. Helping the Velari would not be easy. It would take planning, courage, and unwavering commitment. But he also knew this was why humanity existed, not to conquer or dominate, but to protect, to assist, and to do what was right, even when others would not. And on Arvona, Kellen felt the weight of weeks of fear begin to lift. Hope, fragile but persistent, returned to the hearts of the Velari. Humanity had come. Humanity had decided to stand with them. And for the first time, the Velari dared to believe in a future where they might live, not just survive, but thrive once more. The human fleet moved steadily through the dark emptiness of space, the lights of the ships blinking like stars against the black void. Captain Eric Nolan, a calm and experienced officer, stood on the bridge of the lead ship. His eyes scanned the sensors, tracking the Velari system and the signals that had guided them this far. Around him, crew members moved with quiet efficiency, aware of the importance of this mission. This was not a training exercise or a routine patrol. Lives depended on every decision they made. "Captain, we are entering Velari space," said Lieutenant James Cole, his voice steady but tense. "Signals indicate the survivors are concentrated near the capital city and the eastern settlements." Pirate activity is increasing, but our scans show no organized defense from the Velari fleet. Nolan nodded. Prepare the landing teams. We move slowly and carefully. No unnecessary risk, but we cannot hesitate. Those people are waiting for us. The fleet glided past the outer moons of Arvona. From a distance, the planet looked beautiful, with its oceans reflecting starlight, forests stretching like green blankets, and cities glowing faintly in the darkness. But as they drew closer, the destruction became clear. Cities had collapsed in places, smoke rose from burned districts, and the waters around ports were littered with abandoned and damaged ships. On the planet's surface, Kellen led a small group of Velari through the streets of Leora. The air smelled of smoke and burnt metal, and the cries of children and elders filled the ruined districts. Every step was cautious, as pirate groups could appear at any moment. The Velari had tried to defend themselves, but their weapons were outdated, and their numbers were too few. Hope had become a fragile thing, held together by their own determination to survive. Suddenly, the sky above Leora brightened with strange lights. Kellen paused and squinted. "Ships, large ships," he whispered, his voice trembling. He had only ever seen such vessels in old recordings of the Galactic Council fleets. The human ships moved with precision, forming protective patterns around the city and settlements. The survivors watched in awe, some kneeling, others pointing in disbelief. Captain Nolan watched the city below from orbit. He could see groups of Velari moving through the streets, guiding children and elders toward open areas where they could be evacuated safely. He activated the fleet's communication channels. "Velari citizens, we are here to help. Please follow instructions and stay calm. We will protect you." Kellen's hands shook as he reached the communication panel in the central tower. The voice was clear, calm, and human. It carried a strength that inspired confidence. "They are here," Kellen said to the group around him. "They are really here to help us." The first landings were carefully coordinated. Human ships lowered shuttles carrying supplies, medical teams, and small defense units. Engineers moved quickly to repair critical infrastructure, clearing debris and stabilizing damaged buildings. Medical personnel set up temporary clinics, tending to injured Velari and distributing food and clean water. Every action was precise, every decision deliberate, and the effect was immediate. The survivors felt hope returning with every human team that arrived. Pirates, however, were quick to notice the human intervention. Small attack ships swooped down, trying to harass the landing teams. The human defense units responded immediately, intercepting the raiders without harming the Velari citizens. The pirates were forced back, their attacks scattered, and their confidence shaken. Kellen and the Velari watched in amazement. They had never seen such skill or coordination. The humans were not just powerful, they were disciplined, careful, and determined to protect them. On the ground, Kellen helped guide families to safe zones. He moved through the streets, pointing out where medical teams were stationed, where supplies could be found, and where children could be reunited with parents. Everywhere he looked, he saw humans working side by side with Velari volunteers. Together, they formed a network of protection, comfort, and hope. One human engineer, Sarah Mitchell, was repairing a collapsed bridge that had cut off a district from the main city. She worked alongside a Velari volunteer, showing him how to stabilize beams and lift debris. The Velari struggled at first, unfamiliar with the human techniques, but Sarah's calm instructions and patience made the work possible. Slowly, the bridge was restored, allowing evacuation teams to reach neighborhoods that had been trapped for days. Meanwhile, Captain Nolan coordinated with his fleet in orbit. He tracked every human and Velari team on the ground, adjusting shuttle routes, monitoring pirate movements, and ensuring that supplies reached the people who needed them most. From orbit, he could see the full scale of the disaster, but he could also see the impact of their arrival. Slowly, Leora was being transformed from a city on the brink of collapse to a city being saved. Kellen watched a group of children playing near a restored fountain, their laughter almost unbelievable after days of fear and despair. For the first time in weeks, he felt a sense of relief. "They are helping us," he said softly. "They really are helping us." As night fell over Arvona, the city glowed with new lights. Temporary shelters were illuminated, medical stations operated around the clock, and the streets were filled with people who felt safe for the first time in weeks. Human soldiers patrolled carefully, ensuring that pirate threats were neutralized and that no harm came to the Velari citizens. Captain Nolan called a meeting with his senior officers. "The initial landing is successful," he said. "Velari citizens are receiving aid. Infrastructure is being restored. Pirate attacks are minimal, but we must remain vigilant. The galaxy is watching. This mission is more than rescue, it is a statement. Humanity is showing that we stand with those who have been forsaken." Back on Earth, John Harris received reports from the fleet. Engineers had stabilized critical energy grids, medical teams had treated thousands, and small Velari ships were being repaired for future evacuation or transport of supplies. Public opinion on Earth had shifted even more strongly in favor of the mission. Citizens watched in awe as humanity extended its hand across the stars, saving a species that had been abandoned. On Arvona, Kellen coordinated with Captain Nolan's officers to organize more evacuations. The Velari people were slowly moving from the most dangerous districts to safer areas, guided by humans and their own volunteers. Each successful evacuation brought relief, but also a stark reminder of the destruction they had survived. One of the Velari leaders, Talon Voss, approached Kellen and spoke quietly. "I never imagined anyone would help us. The galaxy has turned its back, but these humans, they are different. They do not care about politics or power, they care about people." Kellen nodded, understanding the truth in the words. Humanity's actions were not dictated by rules or treaties. They were driven by something deeper: empathy, courage, and a sense of responsibility. As days passed, the human fleet expanded its operations. More shuttles arrived with supplies, medical personnel, and engineers. Temporary defenses were established around key settlements to protect against remaining pirate threats. Children were reunited with families, and the elderly found safe housing. Slowly, the Velari population began to feel that life could continue, even in the shadow of destruction. Captain Nolan watched from orbit as the Velari worked alongside the humans. He noted the courage of the Velari volunteers, their determination to survive, and their gratitude for the help being offered. For the humans, it was more than a mission. It was a chance to show the galaxy what humanity could do. Not as conquerors, not as rulers, but as protectors. Kellen visited one of the medical stations, where Dr. Megan Clark treated injured Velari with her team. Children with burns and injuries smiled at her gentle care, while parents expressed gratitude that went beyond words. Kellen realized that hope was no longer fragile, it was growing. The Velari had survived the worst moments of fear and despair, and with humans standing with them, they could face the future with renewed strength. Even as progress was made, challenges remained. Small groups of pirates continued to harass the outskirts of the settlements. Damaged infrastructure required constant attention. Food and water had to be distributed carefully to prevent shortages. But the combined efforts of humans and Velari volunteers ensured that each problem was addressed efficiently. In the evenings, Kellen would stand with groups of survivors, watching the sky. Human ships orbited above, their lights a constant reminder that help had arrived. Children pointed at the lights, imagining the stories of the humans who had come to save them. Elders nodded quietly, grateful for the courage and dedication of strangers who had crossed the stars to stand by them. Captain Nolan maintained constant communication with John Harris. "The operation is proceeding well," Nolan reported. "Velari citizens are responding positively, pirate threats are being neutralized, engineers are repairing critical systems, morale is high." Harris smiled, feeling a sense of pride and relief. Humanity had done what others would not. They had crossed the galaxy to help those in need, demonstrating courage, skill, and compassion. The Velari were no longer alone, and a fragile hope had become real. As the first week of operations came to an end, Kellen walked through a city that was slowly being restored. Children laughed as they played near clean water, families cooked meals in makeshift kitchens, and volunteers worked tirelessly to rebuild homes and shelters. The presence of humans had transformed despair into hope. Kellen paused, looking at the sky. The stars shone brightly, and the distant lights of the human fleet blinked steadily. He whispered to himself, "They are here. They are really here, and maybe we can survive." For the Velari, it was a turning point. The human fleet had arrived, bringing more than supplies and medical aid. They brought a promise, a statement to the galaxy. Humanity would not abandon those who had been forsaken. And for the humans, it was a demonstration of what they could be: protectors, allies, and a force for hope in a galaxy that often forgot the weak and helpless. The partnership between Velari and humans was only beginning, but already it was changing everything. The human fleet remained in orbit over Arvona, its ships casting a protective shadow over the planet below. Captain Eric Nolan watched the movement of the Velari citizens from the bridge of his command vessel. Small shuttles transported supplies, while engineers and medics moved efficiently across the surface. Everywhere he looked, human teams worked alongside Velari volunteers, repairing infrastructure, distributing food, and treating the injured. "Captain," said Lieutenant James Cole, "pirate activity has decreased significantly." "It seems they are afraid of engaging with our fleet directly." Nolan nodded. "Good. Keep monitoring them. Any attempt to harass Velari citizens will be met with swift action. Our priority is the protection of the people below, nothing else." On the ground, Kellen moved through a crowded square where families gathered near temporary shelters. Children played cautiously, their laughter soft but full of relief. Elderly Velari moved slowly, holding hands and guiding each other through the ruined streets. The presence of humans gave them confidence. For the first time in weeks, they believed that someone cared enough to protect them. "Follow me," Kellen said to a group of survivors. "The medics are here and there is food for everyone." The group moved quickly, following his directions, their expressions a mix of hope and disbelief. The small Velari fleets that had remained in orbit were being repaired by human engineers, ensuring that communication and transport lines could continue. Dr. Megan Clark and her medical team worked tirelessly in a large tent near the city center. Burn victims, children with fevers, and elderly patients with injuries from collapsing buildings were treated side by side. The humans taught the Velari volunteers basic medical techniques, enabling them to assist more patients. Kellen watched in admiration as his people quickly learned and adapted, showing resilience even in the darkest hours. Meanwhile, in the orbiting fleet, Captain Nolan coordinated with engineers repairing Velari ships in space docks. The Velari vessels, once idle and abandoned, now had new power systems and working engines. The repairs were critical for communication, transport, and defense. Each ship that was restored added a new layer of security and hope for the Velari citizens below. "Captain, a message is coming from the Galactic Council," said Communications Officer Lily Hayes. The Council's transmission was formal, cold, and demanding. "Human fleet, you are instructed to withdraw immediately from Velari space. Your presence is unauthorized and considered interference. Failure to comply will result in escalation." Nolan listened carefully, his jaw tight. He knew the Council often underestimated humans, assuming that they would retreat when confronted with authority. But he had made a decision, and that decision was not about politics. It was about doing what was right. "Send a response," he said firmly. "Tell them that humanity does not abandon those in need. Any attack on the Velari will be considered an attack on Earth. Our mission continues until the Velari are safe." The response was sent, and within hours, whispers spread across the galaxy. Many powers were surprised that humans, still considered a young species, had the courage to make such a declaration. Others quietly noted that the balance of power might be shifting. Humanity had stepped forward where no one else dared. On the surface, Kellen noticed changes every day. Streets that had been blocked by debris were cleared, water systems that had failed were restored. Schools and small community centers were reopened as temporary shelters. Velari volunteers, guided by human instructors, worked in shifts to ensure that no area was neglected. Every small repair brought a sense of normalcy to a population that had feared extinction. Captain Nolan sent shuttles to the farthest settlements, where small groups of Velari had been isolated and vulnerable. The shuttles landed carefully, and the teams quickly unloaded supplies and medical aid. Many of the survivors had not seen another living being in days, and the sight of human faces, calm and determined, brought tears to their eyes. Back on Earth, Commander John Harris monitored reports from the fleet. The progress was remarkable. The Velari were learning to rebuild their systems, cooperate with humans, and defend themselves against pirate attacks. Harris felt a sense of pride, knowing that humanity had chosen to act when others would not. They are learning to survive not just because of us, but with us, he said quietly to himself. As the days passed, the fleet established semi-permanent bases in orbit and on the surface. Supply chains were strengthened, medical facilities expanded, and communication systems restored. Human teams taught the Velari how to maintain these systems, ensuring that progress would continue even if humans left temporarily. It was more than aid, it was empowerment. Pirates still lurked in the outskirts of the system, but the combined efforts of Velari volunteers and human defense teams kept them at bay. Any attempt to raid a settlement was met with coordinated resistance. Velari fighters, trained by humans, used their repaired ships and improved tactics to defend their homes. Slowly, the pirates began to retreat, realizing that their easy targets were gone. In the heart of Leora, Kellen met with Talon Voss and other Velari leaders. "The humans are more than we could have imagined," Kellen said. "They do not just bring supplies, they teach, they protect, and they inspire. Our people are beginning to believe in themselves again." Talon nodded. "We have been forsaken by the galaxy for too long. But these humans, they are different. They act not for power, but for justice. They remind us that hope is still possible." Captain Nolan and his team worked with Kellen and Velari leaders to organize long-term plans. Schools were rebuilt, farms restored, and trade routes reopened where possible. Engineers taught Velari how to repair and maintain critical systems independently. Medical teams trained local doctors in emergency procedures. Each lesson, each repair, each act of care strengthened the bond between humans and Velari. Yet, the presence of the Galactic Council remained a looming shadow. Messages of warning and veiled threats arrived frequently. Some council members saw the human mission as a challenge to their authority. They underestimated humanity's resolve, assuming that fear of reprisal would force the fleet to leave. They did not understand that humanity's commitment was not negotiable, it was moral. Harris received one particularly stern transmission. The Council demanded that humans cease all operations immediately, warning of sanctions and potential military action. Harris studied the message, then looked out the window at the stars. "We do not leave," he said firmly. "We cannot abandon those who cannot defend themselves. The Velari's survival is our responsibility now." Captain Nolan relayed the decision to his fleet. Every crew member understood the stakes. Their mission was no longer only about rescue, it had become a symbol. Humanity was showing the galaxy that it would not tolerate neglect or injustice. On Arvona, life slowly began to return to a fragile routine. Children attended classes in temporary schools, learning alongside human instructors. Markets reopened, offering food and basic supplies. Hospitals operated around the clock, with humans and Velari doctors working together seamlessly. Streets that had been dangerous were now patrolled by both Velari volunteers and human security teams. Kellen walked through one of the repaired districts, observing the recovery. Families were cooking together, children ran through the streets, and elders spoke quietly among themselves, relieved that their communities were no longer in constant danger. He felt a deep sense of gratitude for the humans who had come to help. One afternoon, a group of young Velari gathered around a human soldier, asking questions about life on Earth. The soldier smiled and answered patiently, showing them images of human cities, forests, and oceans. The children listened intently, their curiosity sparking laughter and excitement. It was a small moment, but it represented something much larger, the bond forming between two species, united by cooperation and compassion. As the sun set over Arvona, the city glowed with lights from repaired buildings, safe streets, and bustling shelters. Human ships orbited above, and the hum of activity filled the air. Kellen paused and looked at the sky. "We are no longer alone," he whispered. "They stand with us." Captain Nolan reviewed the progress reports with his officers. "The Velari are becoming self-sufficient," he said. "We still have work to do, but the future looks better than it has in years. Our presence has made a difference, and it will continue to do so as long as we stand by them." Meanwhile, the Galactic Council continued to watch, surprised and frustrated. The human fleet had defied expectations and demonstrated resolve. Humanity had proven that it would act according to principle, not fear. Some members began to reconsider their approach, realizing that the humans could no longer be ignored or underestimated. Back on Arvona, Kellen met with Dr. Clark and other human leaders. "You have changed our lives," he said. "We were ready to give up, ready to accept that the galaxy had abandoned us, but you came, you helped us, and because of you we will survive." Dr. Clark smiled, gently placing a hand on his shoulder. "You have survived already, Kellen. We are here to help you finish the work, to stand with you as you rebuild and grow stronger." Night fell over the city, but the light of human ships above and the energy of the recovering Velari below filled the darkness. For the first time in generations, hope was not fragile. It was strong, growing, and unstoppable. Humanity had not just brought aid. It had brought a message to the galaxy. Those who are forsaken are not forgotten, and those in need are never truly alone when humanity decides to stand with them. And so, the Velari looked to the future with new courage. With humans at their side, they were no longer victims of abandonment. They were survivors, allies, and a part of a story that would change the galaxy forever. The weeks passed quickly on Arvona. The Velari cities, once broken and burned, now buzzed with activity. Streets were cleared, markets reopened, and children ran freely through squares that had been filled with fear. Humans continued to work alongside the Velari, helping repair infrastructure, maintain medical stations, and train local volunteers. Each day brought new progress, and with it, the fragile hope of survival grew stronger. Captain Eric Nolan walked through one of the repaired neighborhoods, observing the activity. Velari engineers worked alongside human engineers, lifting beams, repairing walls, and clearing debris. Children played nearby, their laughter ringing through the streets. Soldiers patrolled carefully, ensuring that no pirate threat remained. For the first time in generations, the Velari felt safe. Kellen moved through the city with a mixture of pride and awe. He had watched his people survive unimaginable hardship, and now he saw them thriving with the support of humans who had crossed light years to stand with them. "We would have fallen without them," he said quietly to Talon Voss, one of the elder Velari leaders. "But they came and they stayed. Humanity has changed everything for us." Talon nodded. "Not just for us, Kellen, for the galaxy. The Council underestimated us, underestimated them, and now everything is different. They have shown that courage and morality matter more than fear or politics." High above, Captain Nolan coordinated with the human fleet. Every ship was in position, guarding the system and assisting with the repair of Velari orbital stations. Communication links between planets and settlements were restored, ensuring that no Velari citizen would ever feel isolated again. Each repaired ship, each restored station, was a step toward a future where the Velari could stand independently. Meanwhile, the Galactic Council continued to monitor the situation. Some members were furious at the humans' refusal to leave, seeing their actions as a challenge to authority. Others were cautious, realizing that the young human species had demonstrated unexpected strength and moral resolve. The Council debated, but the humans had already made their decision. Their mission was clear: protect the Velari, restore their homes, and ensure that no one could abandon them again. On the planet's surface, Kellen observed a group of Velari children learning from a human teacher, her hands guiding them through simple exercises that would help them in future engineering and medical work. The children's eyes sparkled with curiosity, and Kellen felt a warmth in his chest. "They are learning, not just surviving," he said. "They will be ready for anything now." Captain Nolan met with Kellen and Talon Voss in a large tent near the central square. "The pirates are gone, the main infrastructure is restored, and the population is safe," Nolan reported. "Our mission is complete in terms of immediate survival, but long-term support and training will continue. Humanity will not abandon you." Kellen smiled, feeling a relief he had not known in weeks. "You have given us more than safety. You have given us hope, courage, and a future. We will never forget this." The days turned into weeks, and the Velari continued to rebuild with human guidance. Farms were restored, clean water systems were operational, and schools functioned with both Velari and human instructors. The people who had once feared for every moment of life now began to plan for months and years ahead. The Velari had survived, and they were stronger than they had been before. Captain Nolan and his officers remained vigilant. Though immediate threats had been neutralized, they understood that the galaxy was watching. Any sign of weakness could invite challenges. They trained Velari defense teams, prepared contingency plans, and ensured that communication lines were secure. The humans were not just helping, they were empowering. John Harris received reports from Earth detailing the recovery and progress on Arvona. He smiled as he read the updates. Humanity had acted when others would not. They had crossed the galaxy to protect those who had been forsaken, and in doing so had set a new example for the entire galaxy. "We stand with those who cannot defend themselves," he said quietly. "And the galaxy will remember that." Meanwhile, on Arvona, Kellen organized a council meeting with Velari leaders and human advisors. "We have survived because of your courage," Kellen said, addressing the human team. "We have learned from your skills and discipline. We will rebuild not just as survivors, but as a people capable of standing strong against any threat." Talon Voss added, "The galaxy abandoned us once. We will not allow that to happen again. With humans at our side, we have a new place in the universe. A place where we are seen and valued." Human engineers worked late into the night, repairing orbital platforms and communications satellites. Medical teams trained Velari doctors to handle emergencies independently. Defense teams coordinated drills and patrols with Velari volunteers. Every effort strengthened the resilience of the Velari civilization. One evening, Kellen walked to a hill overlooking the city. The lights of repaired buildings twinkled below, and the stars above were bright and clear. He thought about the weeks of fear, despair, and near collapse. He thought about the humans who had arrived, risking their own safety to help them. And he felt a deep sense of gratitude and determination. Captain Nolan joined him, standing silently as they observed the city. "You have an incredible people," Nolan said. "Strong, resilient, and determined. We are proud to have stood with you." Kellen nodded. "You have shown us what it means to be truly brave, not just in battle, but in heart. You came because it was right, not because it was easy." Above the planet, the human fleet maintained its watch, a quiet reminder of support and protection. For the first time in generations, the Velari felt that they were not alone in the galaxy. Humanity had made a statement. Those who are forsaken would not be abandoned if humans had the power to intervene. Weeks later, the Galactic Council sent another delegation. This time they arrived not with threats, but with caution. They observed the restored Velari cities, the functioning defenses, and the thriving population. It was clear that the humans had acted decisively and successfully. Attempts to challenge them would be met with the united strength of Earth and Arvona. Kellen addressed the delegation. "We were abandoned, left to face destruction alone. Humanity did not stand by. They chose to help, to protect, and to empower us. We owe our survival to them, and we are grateful beyond words." Captain Nolan added, "This is a message for the galaxy. Those who are weak, forsaken, or abandoned are not invisible. Humanity stands with those who need protection. Any attack on the Velari will be considered an attack on Earth." The council representatives exchanged uneasy glances. They had underestimated the humans and now recognized that their actions had set a new standard. The galaxy had witnessed a species that acted not for power, but for justice and compassion. On the surface of Arvona, celebrations began quietly. Families reunited, schools resumed regular classes, and markets thrived with food and goods. The city had been rebuilt not only physically, but in spirit. The Velari had survived, and they had a newfound sense of purpose and confidence. Kellen walked through the central square, watching the children play. "We have survived," he whispered. "We have been given a chance to grow, to thrive, to be seen. And it is because someone chose to stand with us." Captain Nolan and his team continued to monitor the planet, ensuring that all systems functioned smoothly. Though the mission was largely complete, the human presence remained a symbol of hope, a statement to the galaxy that those who act with courage and morality could make a difference. John Harris received final reports from the fleet. The Velari were safe, their infrastructure restored, and their population thriving. Humanity had fulfilled its promise. "We have shown the galaxy who we are," Harris said. "We stand with those who cannot stand for themselves. We will not be ignored, and we will not abandon those in need." As the sun rose over Arvona, Kellen looked out at the city below. He thought about the weeks of fear and despair, the moments of courage, and the arrival of humans who had changed everything. Hope was no longer fragile. It was strong, growing, and unstoppable. Captain Nolan joined him once more. "This is just the beginning," he said. "Your people are strong. We have shown what can be done when we act with courage and compassion. The galaxy will take note, and the Velari will never be alone again." Kellen smiled, his heart full of gratitude. We will remember and we will grow stronger, because humanity chose to stand with us. We have a future, not just to survive, but to thrive. The Velari had been forsaken by the galaxy. They had faced destruction, despair, and abandonment. But humanity had come. Humanity had acted when no one else would, standing with the weak, the helpless, and the forsaken. And in doing so, they had not only saved a species, they had sent a message across the stars. The galaxy would never forget. Humanity had chosen to stand for what was right. Humanity had chosen to protect those who could not protect themselves. And together, humans and Velari would face the future, stronger, united, and unstoppable.